All right. Good day, everyone. Good day from Saigon. Welcome to this webinar about smart cities and the future of cities and metropolises. We're so happy to have received many registrations for this webinar, specifically from Vietnam, but also from Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and of course also from the Netherlands. So the whole ASEAN region is represented to speak about this highly interesting topic. This webinar is offered to you by ADCN. It's the ASEAN Dutch Chamber Network. The ADCN is an initiative, a collaboration from Dutch Chambers of Commerce in the Southeast Asian region. And we believe that the ADCN is a great gateway to strengthen your international connections and to be inspired and learn from the experts coming from 6 different chambers. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. One of the things we do is connect youth by organizing events that are interesting for all of our members. And I think this one is exactly like that. It is about metropolises. Most of us will live in such a big city in the ASEAN region. And we have invited 2 Dutch companies to talk about this subject. Can you skip to the next slide, please? This is the program. We'll start with a presentation from Peter Portheine. He's from EIPO, Eindhoven Industrial Project Office. I'll leave the introduction to him, but he is a strategic consultant for, amongst others, the Binh Duong region here in Vietnam, and is helping the Binh Duong region to further elevate towards becoming a middle income, high income region in the long run. And I'll leave it to Peter to further elaborate on that one. The other presentation after 20 minutes will be from Mr. Duong from Signify Vietnam. And it will be about all the projects that Signify Vietnam, a very Dutch company, also with its roots in Eindhoven, is doing. And a unique thing about Signify is that they're active in all of the 6 markets of the ASEAN region. And as such, they're a perfect example to highlight and showcase Dutch knowledge and expertise in this region. I highly invite every one of you to collaborate and to chat together in the chat box, where we will collect questions and have them answered by the speakers. I will have to say that this Q&A session will take 15 minutes. And if you have many questions, then we'll try and figure out a few of those questions together with the speakers. And if we don't get to all of them, then we will share those in the post-reads that will be coming to you after this webinar. Then at 5 o'clock Vietnam time, we will have a special festive moment. Chairman of ADCN, Executive Director of the Thai Chamber, Mr. Hans van den Born, will announce the strategic alliance of ADCN, and specifically for our members, this means new benefits that you may not be aware of yet. So as such, we'd like to take a moment to disseminate that message to you. After that festive moment, we will have the executive directors of the ADCN chambers explain briefly how their country relates to the concept of smart city. And lastly, it'll be me again doing some closing remarks, and I'll promise to try and keep it short. Fantastic. Together with all of you, I would like to give now the stage to Peter Portheine. Peter, could you please start your presentation?
Yes, thank you very much, Guido. And hopefully I am in your screen now with my presentation.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
It is my sincere privilege to be with you here this afternoon from Eindhoven, where normally I would prefer to be around in the region, but obviously we have to live with these restrictions for some time. And I really privileged to join you on this important topic. And I will lead you through some of our experiences in Asia, and hopefully my example, my best practices can help you to inspire and by the end of my presentation, I like to conclude with an invitation how we can strengthen cooperation to look into possible opportunities in Asian countries, and how our network of business organizations and companies can help to contribute to these demands, which we definitely see around. So just to take my 20 minutes, you will recognize that we are from Eindhoven. We have our background in the Brainport region. And I started this advisory like 5 years ago together with Joost Helms, and we have both a background in public and private service. So we both served on the public side, Joost as a vice mayor, myself as a member of the provincial government. And on the other hand, we have been entrepreneurs since the day we started. So if you think about Eindhoven, just to give you a quick reference, most people think about Philips. And Philips was indeed an important legacy for our town to develop. And Philips actually led to the development of what the region is if you are here today. So today it is no longer only Philips, it is a region which is dedicated, which has an ecosystem specialized in high-tech systems in R&D and design. And if you look around in Eindhoven, you might notice that we are quite a small region. We are only like 600,000 citizens in a relatively small country. So we have to be smart, and we also have to specialize to be successful. And actually the experience we have in Eindhoven and the way we have developed the Eindhoven region in the last 20 years has brought us some idea how we can apply our experience and also these best practices around the world in many regions where there is a similar demand to lead industry to a new era, to become more sustainable, to become more valuable, and to break away from low value, low profit, low cost labor. So that is where EIPO started. So what we do today, and as you might understand that changing the economy, changing ecosystems involves a lot of new collaboration. Collaboration as an important instrument to bring together government and private companies in an aligned way to make better decisions to build new future economies. And for these economies, you need new ecosystems, because no longer does government and institutes and private companies work isolated from each other. They have to find a way to actually merge all these interests in a policy framework and into actual decisions which help you to develop that new economy. And obviously a new economy is an important framework for a smart city, because the smart city will require economic and social development to drive the development of these cities. And we also touch upon how do we organize this and how do we pay for this. So we always question, how do we find the right investors that fit our needs? How can outside investment help us to make these steps? And as I mentioned, transformation of collaboration. No longer do we work separated, but we find each other and we work together. So the Triple Helix is an important policy, an important governance framework which comes from Holland and is now more and more being applied around the world. I mentioned that this close collaboration is necessary if you want to benefit from R&D, if you want to drive new economies, and if you want to attract new type of industries. And then just as an example, we have a high-tech campus here in Eindhoven, which is dedicated to R&D. And the interesting thing is that you actually can copy the buildings and you can build these campuses around the world. And we see a lot of them in Asia, especially in China, but you cannot copy the content. The software, the people, the smart community, and also the ecosystems have to be tailored and developed locally. And that is where we actually can make a difference. And you realize that Netherlands is a small country and Eindhoven as an even smaller city still is not the most intelligent, but you can actually be successful if you are adaptable. So if you're adaptable to change, and that is what we saw the last year during the pandemic, if you are fast and flexible to change to new circumstances, then you can even be successful in changing times. So that is what we apply and that is what we try to do, and at several places in the world around Asia. We do that in Vietnam, we do that in Thailand, and we are actually exploring possibilities in the Philippines and Malaysia. And I hope my story can inspire you to see how we can work on this together. Because we are facing some global trends and challenges which are universal and which do not only apply in Europe, they are equally relevant in Asia and the rest of the world. Because urbanization is pushing a lot of people to the large metropoles. And actually this urbanization is also putting pressure on our climate footprint. It is raising questions, how do we find proper jobs for all these people, try to find their ways to these large metropoles. And at the same time, the COVID is pushing into fast digitalization, which is actually creating new challenges. Do we have the right infrastructure? Do we have the right capacities for the people to work with? So this is all we are facing together. 6 billion people will be living to 9 billion growth in 2050, and 70% of these will be living in the large cities. So this exponential growth is creating a large demand for the supply of materials and energy. And we have to rethink the way we use materials, because actually if we are trying to supply the Earth, we would be needing 2 or more planets to provide all the materials to build proper places for all these people. So we have to introduce the circular way of thinking. How can we reuse materials and how we can avoid that waste is being depleted? So this is in general, and I will share you the slides afterwards, but this is the general challenge we see. So that also raises the question, if you think about the livable city, what are the challenges? And these challenges, they differ from city to city. Because if you go to Ho Chi Minh, you realize that flooding is a large problem due to the rise of sea and river levels. And if we cannot change that, we will see a large part of the city being under risk more frequently to flood. But at the same time, other areas in higher geographies have different challenges. Some of these have the challenge of drought, the shortage of water. So designing a livable city is always about identifying the actual needs and demands that we face. So we do that no longer only top down, but also in a bottom-up approach, together with local community, local private companies, and local government. And it's also about finding your way to find the right investors that can help you make these next steps. And at the same time, we realize that if you look at the SDGs, and especially number 11, it is all about how can we provide the appropriate living solutions for every citizen in an inclusive way. And there is also a question of, if we are just trying to use a lot of technology, is that going to bring us the right solution? Because only technology will not make the city smart. The people in the city, the capacity of our community, that is actually what drives the new economy and will drive the smart city. And there are good examples of cities around the world who have invested a lot in purely technology, which were not successfully in making these next steps. And just as an example, I will very quickly touch upon the use case of Binh Duong. Binh Duong is the neighbor region to Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. And they went on a path which is quite similar to many cities around Asia, coming from an agricultural background, and try to find your way to first industrialization. But obviously after these first steps, there's also the question, how do we proceed this development? Do we stick to traditional manufacturing, or can we break away to more value type of manufacturing? Increasing the GDP, raising the value of our economy, and also bringing more money into the local economy, which is obviously important because that is what pays for education, healthcare, and other social services. And that started in Binh Duong with a signing, as is quite common in Asia, signing an MOU between the city of Binh Duong and the city of Eindhoven. We walked through that in an approach which we used here in the Netherlands, which is called the Navigator, where we are trying to focus on different areas which require attention if you want to modernize the region and eventually build a smarter region. It is based on the principles of the Triple Helix. So how do we work together in a more intense and more committed way, where no longer only government will decide, but will take and bear in mind the questions and the demands of the local industries. And if they start to work together, you can imagine that you make better decisions which eventually will drive socio-economic growth. And just not only putting in place like a new policy, but we also focused on bringing the first projects alive. And then we always look for cooperation between government and local private companies like Signify, but not only by installing new LED lighting solutions, but also try to do some capacity building, that we're bringing the expertise in the local university to make these projections and build these solutions on a local scale. We are equally involved in the semiconductor industry, where we, based on the cooperation with NXP, try to make a first step to build a local first stage RFID factory. We do that by introducing share e-scooters together with Bosch on one of the universities. So we always try to find ways of bringing these policies alive with the good examples, which can explain and show to people what the benefits can be. But we also look into the ways that how can we introduce and attract more R&D, because we need knowledge to develop new products and technologies, not only imported from Asia and the rest of the world, but also on a local scale. And we do that by connecting ourselves to international networks. We do that by reaching out to the rest of the world, because if we want to change the face of the city, we want to change the perspective of citizen, we also have to find new type of industries who can bring us and help us to reach that new future. And obviously, you have to measure your success, because it is not only by telling nice stories, building a marketing picture, but it is also about how can we actually deliver tangible results that bring money to the region to make it possible to do these investments. And as you see, and I will share afterwards, we have managed in our cooperation to get some of these extra FDI results that help the local government to pay for these investments. And we use that, and in going forward, and I will very briefly touch on this, the Netherlands developed a smart city strategy, which is available for you, and I can share it with you in English. It's about the general approach. How do we do that? How do we build the right infrastructure? How do we do that in terms of public-private collaboration? And actually, by connecting all these cities in the Netherlands, we are considering the Netherlands as one smart city, because as small as we are no bigger than Ho Chi Minh. But it also creates opportunities to see how we can share and multiply knowledge. We see that basically smart city concepts are borderless, so they also provide opportunities for our businesses to do business around the world. And that is also where I will actually finish my presentation by giving you two other invitations. The first one is that in Vietnam, we are actually working on a scoping study together with some of the Smart City Consortium partners to see how we can identify the demands of local cities and provinces around Vietnam and how we can best match them to opportunities for Dutch technology and service providers. And the second way we do that is working together with NL Business, and we are now discussing the possibility of expanding the virtual gateway by introducing a special track for smart cities. And again, this is an open invitation to you to think and reflect and to see how you could contribute to that and even be part of this if we take this along. And for all the invitations I do, please use the ADCN partners as your connection. So it's the DBAV for Vietnam, and they can help you and connect you with our efforts to bring smart cities higher on the agenda and also make it a viable business opportunity for the Dutch business community. Sorry for a few minutes delay, Mr. Chairman Guido, and I'll give back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Peter, for that powerful story on all the things that EIPO does for smart cities all over the world. Thanks for that presentation. And indeed, I would like to underline what you've said at the ending and also in my closing remarks. I will do a suggestion for companies that want to be involved in smart city, that want to be a part of a smart city working group. Please do reach out to me. We are doing stuff like that, for example, on the field of, in the field of agriculture or in the field of water, and we do that specifically in Vietnam. But on an ADCN wide level, we could also start up thinking groups, working groups that could indeed be fueled by guys like yourself, Peter, or for example, our next speaker, Mr. Duong, and bringing that together in that Helix model, maybe starting at the private sector and then bringing that together could be a new function to what we are doing. With that, thank you very much for your time. I would like, if you can, please hang on for the Q&A session. And I would like to welcome Mr. Duong to the digital stage. Mr. Duong, it's my honor absolutely to have you. Signify Vietnam, a very inspiring company indeed. Are you able to share your screen with me?
Okay, so sorry for that.
Thanks, no worries.
Okay, thank you, Do, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Do, thank ADCN and DBAV to give me the chance to sharing with you today. So my name is Duong. I'm a general manager of Signify Vietnam. Signify is the new name of Philips Lighting since 2018. Okay, and today I would like to share to you on topic of how to make our city smarter and more livable with connected lighting. Okay, so we will go through the challenge all the cities is facing today, and then how lighting can contribute to addressing this challenge through the connected lightings, and also finally come to the solutions Signify we have, what we call Interact City. So for the challenge all the city is facing today, we all can see that the urbanizations very fast for the last few decades. More and more people are living, working, and playing in the city. So the population grows and urbanizations is putting a lot of pressure on the systems of the city, and also for the city leader of how to, they got a lot of challenge in terms of with the limited resource to support the citizens to have a better life in the city, and also how to apply the digitalizations to support the citizens in the city. So with more and more people in the city admin is always expected to create a very, how to say, a vibrant and also a safe public for all the citizens. Also to improve the people quality of life, but at the same time, they need to save the cost and also making everything to be more environmental friendly. And through a lot of study, they can see that city now is one of the major contribution to the climate change. City now consume about 78% of the whole world energy, and they produce about 60% of the carbon dioxide. One of the matter we are very, how to say, concerning today. But at the same time, we also can see that city is the place where we have own innovations and also can start the sustainability we have today. With, how to say, if the city we can have like a greener infrastructure that can contribute to reduce the carbon emissions, that also can help to improve the quality of life, and also create things the city to be more attractive to the people. So we hear a lot of people talking about a smart city. And what is smart city? So we are talking a lot about like internet parking. We talk about smart building, smart health, smart intelligent shopping, IoT, smart home. So smart city is one of like what we call a subject concept, which is helping to connect all the systems platform in the city with the citizens and also with the authority to get all the data to be processed and helping to make a smart or intelligent decisions to improve the quality of life for our citizens. Then we see how lighting can contribute to that matter. People see that the lighting industry have gone through 5 transitions. The first one is from when we start, the conventional light until the early of 21st century. And then with LED introductions in about 2008 for the commercial, we're moving into what we call like digital conversions transitions. Then with the connected lightings introduced in early of like 2012, we move into a system, and later on that will be what we call a service with the lightings for the IoT. And now we are moving to the 5th transition of light as a language. So later on we will share to you why we can say that. So with some also study from the Northeast group, currently in the 2020s, we have about 100 million the street lightings in LED. And in another 10 years, by 2029, the worldwide will have about 360 million street lightings in LED, and 1/3 of that will be connected. So the study also sharing that moving from traditional to LED lightings could have to savings about from 50% to 70% of energy. And if we move to the connected or smart lightings control, the saving can up to 80%. That'd be huge. And this is to show you of how smart lighting can contribute as a part of our smart cities scalings. Here, they divide by 3 levels. For the level 1, city will stop at only the smart street lightings, connected lightings. So then we can have what we call like centralized management system, control all the lightings. If we move to level 2, which is adding in some sensor, IoT sensor, and also the third-party applications like smart parking, that will give the cities the benefit will be not only public lighting, but also kind of like environments and public safety. Then the third level of integrated on the IoT platform together in what we call like data marketplace. Then city, we can leverage the full IoT platform, all the data from marketplace. And actually the benefit is we can monetizations of the city data. So that is what from industry. And what we have from Signify. We can see that in the city, lighting is everywhere, from the office to retail, shopping mall, hotel, healthcare, transportation, road and street, landmark, and everywhere. Signify, we offer the solution we call Interact Platform. So what is the Interact Platform? Interact Platform is the IoT platform, connect user and on the device together based on IoT. We store and process all the data to create the system to support managing whatever we have in lighting to support our life today. At the same time, Interact also offer API, which is the applications programming interface to support other systems, other applications can work together. We also providing is through the portal that the new programmer, they can update, they can have new applications to work together with our Interact platform. And for the city, we have here, we got Interact City, we have Interact Landmark, we have Interact Sport, retail, office, industry, and also hospitality, which means everywhere we have the applications to support. Then how our solution of Interact Cities can support? The first one is support savings energy up to 80%. We can optimize operations and we can improve the efficiency at least about 50% through on the effective maintenance plannings. We can reduce the downtime of the luminaire less than 1%. Then also we can track all the feedback from the customer. We can improve traffic and also safety by 20%, reduce 20% of crime and also 30% of the road accidents through some of the study. So let me show you a short video of Interact City.
What if you could make your city smarter and more livable? What if you could set lighting schedules and increase lighting in areas where needed? What if you could increase your energy savings and run your city more efficiently? Introducing Interact City. With remote management of your city's lighting, you can deliver the right light when and where it's needed and boost the quality of city life and civic pride. Scheduling, dimming, and zoning save energy and resources, allowing you to make progress toward your sustainability goals and reinvest the savings in city infrastructure. Manage smart lighting for single light points, groups of lights, or even the entire city. Immediately identify faults for rapid response and deliver consistent service to your citizens. With the connected lighting infrastructure in place, you can add innovations over time. These could include new capabilities such as environmental monitoring or incident detection, or data-enabled services that engage and support your citizens. With Interact, you can manage all your lighting via one dashboard, collect and share data via the lighting grid, securely store and analyze all your data in the cloud to generate new insight, use APIs to create new applications and services, and integrate lighting with other municipal systems and services. Interact City makes your city smarter and more livable, enhances the efficiency of your street lighting system, and improves city safety and responsiveness. But don't take our word for it. Interact City.
Okay, so that video can show you of what we can do with Interact City, but the view from Signify is not a lone lighting management system. We see that lighting is one part of city infrastructure. So our solutions is designed to work very well with other systems in the infrastructure of the city, like camera management, like traffic control, traffic management. We integrated all together in one simple dashboard for the city. So they only need one city to manage everything, not separate systems from lightings, from traffic, from camera control. Moving further, more than that, we are not only focusing on lighting management, working with other infrastructure. We are ready to provide, to integrate it with other applications for the city to make our city smarter. So we can have here like environments, monitorings, we can have incident detections, we can have dynamic lighting control, and we also can have data-enabled service for the city. Interact City is a proof system. Up up to now, we have more than 2,000 projects in over more than 50 countries. We can name some of big names like New York, Los Angeles, Rio de Janeiro, Buenos Aires. We have a lot of cities in Europe. You can see in the map. For Asia, we have Dubai, we have Jakarta, we have Singapore, and more to come. So for the case study, the real one, we can share to you. The first one here, I would like to share the case study of Los Angeles in the US. So LA, they have about more than 200,000 street lightings and convert about 165,000 to LED. And among that 165,000 LED, 110,000 is connected. So the result they got is they got 63% of energy savings. And moving further, LA is not only look at the lighting management, they are adding a sensor to the light pole to have environment monitoring in terms of noise. And the second case study I would like to share is Buenos Aires. So they have upgraded 75% of their street lighting, about 91,000 street lightings to LED, and they got a significant reduce the dioxide carbon emissions. And also at the same time, they can reduce 50% of their operation costs to operate the systems in Buenos Aires. And the beauties of Buenos Aires here is our interactivity is integrated easily and fully integrated with SAP HANA, the system from SAP which Buenos Aires using to manage their smart city system in the city. So this is what we have in the world. The question will be, how about Vietnam? So we do have introduced our solution to some city in the country, and we have done the few pilot project testings. And the first case here is the Binh Duong. You can see the picture of the road lightings is using our interactivity. And the left-hand side is the screen, how we monitor it. And the second case here is we have in Bac Ninh, Vietnam. So this also is a pilot project. So it's two cases. We have also other one as well, but there is some case of pilots in Vietnam. We are ready to work with any customer, any city in the country of about the smart lightings, about infrastructure to support smart city initiative. That's also my presentations. I'm happy to answer any question you may have.
All right, thank you, Duong. What an inspiring story, moving from let's say the basics in terms of lights and lamps all the way up to a value chain of smart city solutions. Peter, are you there as well? Can you put on your video and microphone, please? Because Peter, we've got a question for you as well, and also for you, Duong. What do you believe is the smartest city in the world? Is there one city that was one of the viewers wanted to know that? What is the leader in smart city?
Well, that's an interesting question. We are members of the ICF network, which is the Intelligent Community Forum, and we select the most promising 21 regions or cities everywhere every year. And out of these 21, we'll drill down to 7. And out of these 7, we come up with the smartest city elected. For instance, in 2011, Eindhoven was elected. But very recently, we had this announcement again for these 21 promising regions. And Binh Duong was one of them, but also Belfast. if you ask me now, I would definitely look into some Finnish cities, a city like Singapore, but also smaller cities which have a very promising model of development. And I was also struck by one of the questions I read in the chat. More and more we see that it is no longer the smart city as such, but it is also how can you connect the city life to the rural life. So can we make better connections between the heart of the city, but also with the surroundings? And I think especially COVID learned us that you are no longer depending on the place where you live, and because you can work actually digitally in any place. So we see a merger, a more hybrid approach, that no longer only the heart of the city is the promising area, but how do we best connect the good things of a livable city with its surroundings? Because for some people, families, sometimes the rural areas around the city are more promising. So I think there is a kind of redefinition of a smart city, but I think every city which has the understanding that it is about smart people, smart community and capacity building within the city, that will be the most promising cities to live and will be the most intelligent ones, in my opinion.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, and basically the other side of that question would obviously be then, which city in the ASEAN region is most longing for smart city solutions and development?
Well, I hope that my story maybe inspired you, that I think many ASEAN countries and also ASEAN cities are looking for ways to build and develop local economies, to become more sustainable, to lower our climate footprint, to become more intelligent in the way we do our business. And by that, we reduce our climate footprint and we increase the value of our local economy, which will pay for better jobs for local people and also will pay for better education and healthcare. So I think in general, this is a way and also a challenge that every Asian city has at the high of its agenda. And I think there's also a prospect of many companies and organizations to contribute to that.
Yeah. True. So for example, for the Binh Duong region, I think it's fair to say that you guys really elevate the whole region to a new level of wealth prosperity, or is that too much?
Well, I think it is too much. I think it is always strongly depending on local leadership, local visionary leadership among government, but also among the state-owned companies. And what we can do, we can help them to direct this leadership in a better way, to make some choices, and so by that making it more effective. But we always need strong leadership, local cultural leadership, which can make these changes happen, which can make these changes be continuous. So I have a prudent idea about what we can do to that, but we can also, as an outside expert, always help to inspire. And sometimes it's easier for us to reflect on the necessity of change, where some local leadership and local government is sometimes more part of the system, which makes it more difficult to make these changes more visible.
Yeah, I understand. That is the government part of the Helix model, if I'm understanding you correctly, Peter, that you're referring to. Unmissable part. Okay, I'm going on to question number 3, and that is a question from 4. I think Mr. Jung can answer best. How exactly can connected LED be disposed in an environmentally friendly way? So that means with no negative environmental impacts. Jung, could you shed your LED light on that?
Okay, so I think you can see that from easy and simple comparisons between what we call conventional lightings and the LED lightings, the power consumption is at least about 50% through the own study, 50% to 70% of energy savings. So by saving that energy, and we see, right, in the presentation was showing that cities is consume about 78% of worldwide energy. And we, in all the cities, a lot of energy is consumed for our lightings. It's in the in-house, in the office, street lightings, blah, blah, right? So if we can reduce 50% or 70% of the power consumed for that lighting's purpose, then how much we save for like our electricity, then we can reduce our carbon dioxide emissions. And that be a big matter for our environments and also the climate change.
Thanks. That's an interesting elaboration on that topic, that energy saving will indeed be the way to eliminate the negative environmental impacts of LED. Thank you very much. Then Peter, I think this question is for you, but Duong, feel free to step in. Looking at the ASEAN landscape, what are some of the tech infrastructures that countries need to focus on to build a good foundation for smart city development in the future? And I think the question asker refers to mobile technology, perhaps lighting technology, domestics, what is that, domotica, that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, I think it refers to all of what you mentioned, Guido, but it starts that we have to have a basic broadband infrastructure accessible to everybody in any place, everywhere. So it needs to either be a mobile infrastructure at not only the city level, but also the rural level. And I think COVID has speed up the implementation and installation of fiber networks, which are necessary to host and to drive local internet access. I think that is where it starts. And the second consideration is that if you implement technology, for instance, for measure traffic camera, traffic light management, maybe LED lighting, maybe air pollution, air quality sensoring, maybe water sensors, they all connect to a network. And if you allow only private companies to install these local networks, you will never be able as a local government to actually integrate all these data. And not only integrating this, but you also want to make it possible for a citizen to be partly responsible for their own data. So we have to think about always a strategy which is not bringing this local network only to private side. There has to be a public-private cooperation to make sure that we can still manage all the data which are relevant for the city, but also relevant for the citizen of the city. And on the other hand, we also have to allow private companies to work with that data to fill their business models. So there has to be a public-private cooperation. And again, the Triple Helix is also kind of governance for this, to make sure that we are not selling our data only to private companies and then lose control for future use. And I think that is a very important consideration if you build a strategy for ICT infrastructure on a city level. Thank you, Guido.
Yeah, it's interesting. It all starts, but do you, for example, refer to 4G here, Peter? Is that a network?
Sure.
Yeah?
I think what is a privilege in many Asian countries is that we were skipping part of the landline network by improving the mobile network like 4G and 5G. We're already bringing broadband internet access to every rural part of the country without the necessity of installing very expensive and complex local landline networks. So I think that is where we, for instance, Asia is making a giant leap, like Africa compared to Europe, where we always started with these copper networks and then going to fiber, and then now we're moving to 5G. So that is where actually the mobile adaptation in Asia is helping to drive these new applications.
All right, and Duong, from your, let's say, network building side of things, what do you have to add to this tech infrastructure and the story that Peter tells?
So I think I fully agree with what Peter have shared to everyone. I just would like to add that like from the view of the lighting solution provider, we see that we be part of the infrastructure network. So the LiPo today is not only providing lighting services, we also can have 5G. We also can have environments monitoring. We also can have a video camera together in one. So what we see here is we will have what we call like integrated infrastructure for the smart city.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much for for your time. I have promised a futuristic webinar. I've promised an inspiring webinar, and you guys definitely delivered on that. Thanks specifically to Signify for being a part of our business chamber. You're part of, I believe, all 6 business chambers, so that's absolutely fantastic. As such, it's really an honor also to hear what you guys are doing on a daily basis. And Peter, very many thanks for shedding your light on what Smart City can do specifically for the Vietnam region. But many people will be interested in getting to know you and learning about how can we form a coalition of companies to set our first steps towards such a model, because there's so much to be won there, and the Dutch have so much to give there. With that, I'm going to close off this part of the ADCN webinar, but we're definitely not there yet. We've got 2 very interesting topics. And the first one is together with Hans van den Born. You are the rotating chair of the ADCN. That is, besides your ever busy function as ED, Executive Director of the Netherlands Thai Chamber of Commerce. You've got some festive news to share, and I am looking forward to hearing what that is.
Thank you, colleague Guido, and good day to everyone from Thailand. Yes, we have some celebration today, not because it is also the Thai New Year, so I just put on my party hat. We're going to start a new Thai New Year, which also means a new beginning. And the beginning, what we are actually announcing today, and to keep the words of Signify, the ADCN has seen the light. And the ADCN, you might have seen our logo, you might have seen the ASEAN Dutch Chamber Network. What it's all about? Well, actually, it's a collaboration between 6 bilateral chambers here within the ASEAN region. And you will see all of them in the later stage of this particular presentation, but let me refer to them as the Dutch Business Network from Indonesia, the Malaysian Dutch Business Council from Malaysia, the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, the Philippines from the Philippines. Singapore has the ADB or ADB Dutch Cham, and Thailand had already mentioned NTCC, which I represent, and Vietnam, the Dutch Business Association Vietnam, which is so kindly hosting today's webinar. And talking about webinar, this is already the 12th, which we have done in collaboration with the colleagues here across the region, and expect to have more from us. You will see that in some of the points I will present to you in a few minutes. But what exactly is our missions, and why is it so important for you that today ADCN officially has seen the light? Well, focusing on, let's say, the Dutch entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs who would like to do business, to become more active within our region, is where we can hopefully help them with a soft landing. Or if you're already active in one of our countries and you want to, let's say, venture out to another surrounding country, our colleagues, we can support and help you there as well. So it's for the Dutch companies, for our members, to support you in soft landing and also in your expansion plans. This is not something we just started doing recently. Already since 2005, so more than 15 years, in an informal way, we have been collaborating together. But actually our strengths become more, how can I say, more active since last year, not because we wish to do more webinars, we prefer to have a glass and we prefer to have a toast together with you, but because of the COVID time, we had, of course, the chances of making webinars more interactive and sharing knowledge, because sharing knowledge and helping you as an entrepreneur further is actually one of the core strategies we would like to do. And luckily, the Dutch government has also seen this region as still a very promising region. And I think with today's topic, I'm sure we can all relate to that, but we'll hear about that in a few seconds when my colleagues will also join this presentation. Now, what we have been doing in the past, this is a summary of the various webinars, very interesting topics, wide-ranging topics, which we feel will benefit entrepreneurs, companies who are already here or would like to become more active here. And this is just a timeline since we started in April last year. I'm already getting emotional if I hear my voice. So you see a few of those banners. If you would like to view them, some of them have been recorded, please reach out to us. And as mentioned, this is already the 12th. And I understand from my colleagues from Singapore, number 13 is already lined up for the 3rd of May. So we'll hear from that soon as well. What else can you expect from us? Like I said, more webinars. under this umbrella of ADCN together in collaboration with the colleagues, but also hopefully soon when the borders are open and we can safely travel again and meet each other, you're also more than welcome to join live events once that is happening again. So that is a promise. Now, something new we're also very proud of is podcasts. Podcast is something we just started a few weeks ago, and the first podcast is now available, which is happened to be Thailand. I know my colleagues are preparing the last pieces of their podcasts, so the other 5 countries will follow very soon, and we'll of course communicate about that. And talking about communication, how do we want to reach out to you? We use print media, we use all sorts of social media. So you'll be hearing more from us in the upcoming days, weeks and months. So stay tuned, because we are here to serve you and help you further in your expansion plans. Thank you, Guido, for now.
Perfect. Well, what a perfect summary, Hans. And indeed, this is a very nice kickoff of something that we have behind the screens been working on for a fairly long time. I really hope that as part of the ADCN that we can further build on intertwining our communities and helping each other succeed, not only in our mother countries, but also in the whole region, because that is essentially our reason of existence. That is what binds us. At least that's how I see it. We're going to use a few minutes right now, and I'm going to need you directly, Hans, to elaborate a little bit further on what Smart City does for your country. So we'll zoom in on Thailand, and then we will use a few minutes to zoom in on the other countries as well.
Thank you again. And indeed, Thailand, thinking about smart cities, the government has a plan that by 2024, 100 cities, most of them are the rural upcoming cities, will be defined as a smart city. We cannot touch upon all these cities, of course, but we identify a few where I would like to bring your attention to, which might be interesting for you to follow this year as well. Now, Bangkok, we all know, I think that is still the city with the most opportunities for most of our, let's say, companies who would like to be active in this country, Thailand. But if I look at the other upcoming, I think it was mentioned by Peter, and actually, Peter, you'll be on stage as well in a virtual way in Khon Kaen, which will be hopefully next month in May. Khon Kaen is one of those cities, very rapidly growing, huge universities, but also very, very increasing in the bio and the biofuel industry. There's a large activity in sugarcane production and all these, let's say, agri-food related and agri-tech related solutions. So this is where we see a lot of opportunities. Strategically, Khon Kaen lies within the greater Mekong area, so that also has some logistic advantages. Apart from that, we see in Khon Kaen a huge growth in the medical sector. So those are 3 sectors where I could potentially invite you all to stay tuned. That will be next month. What I mean with that, we are organizing as the Netherlands Chamber of Commerce Business Fora, which is either visible or by hybrid means. So if you would like to participate in whatever way, please reach out to us and you'll be more than happy to join our 2 days forum. Chiang Mai, the other city which I have listed here, is in the north. I think most of you know it. It's also called the Rose of the North. And Chiang Mai is famous for the digital nomad and everything which is to do with digitization. So think about smart city concept from a digital point of view, but mostly also in the tourism and the tourism tech. This is where we see highlights coming out of, let's say, Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai is apart from that also a creative city, so lots of arts, and that also gives us a lot of ample focus on showcasing Chiang Mai and what it has to offer. The second city of Thailand, so something to look forward to. And last but certainly not least, the Eastern Economic Corridor is not really a city, it's more 3 provinces together where it's being highlighted as the future engine of Thailand. It's actually in the same area, which is now called the Eastern Seaboard, which was also started about 40 years ago when a lot of industrialization took place. Now it's actually 1 level up in the Thailand 4.0 agenda. This area sees a lot of investment in, let's say, hardware, infrastructure, high-speed rail, the building of bigger ports, but also new cities with all, let's say, opportunities for Dutch companies who would like to be in this digital age active in Thailand. We are more than happy to support you. We have close cooperation, of course, with all the Thai government, and they welcome you with open arms. And this was just a 2 minutes update on Thailand. There's more to share, but I promise to keep it short. And I promise to give now the floor to my colleague Marco in Malaysia, who will update you all on what Malaysia has to offer you in smart cities. Thank you again.
All right, Hans, thank you so much for that great introduction of the ADCN just now. And also, of course, your words about smart cities in Thailand. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, from the office of the Malaysian Dutch Business Council in Kuala Lumpur. According to a recent survey by Standard Chartered, Malaysia is the second most favorable country for foreign investment in Southeast Asia. A range of measures to attract more FDI have been established or recently improved, such as liberalization of foreign exchange policies, setting up an investment portal, business support center for short-term business visitors during this pandemic, relaxation of incentive conditions for manufacturing and service projects, reducing the process of obtaining a building permit to just 54 days, while the average in ASEAN is 133 days. Malaysia has its smart city framework and recently also launched the Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint as part of plans to transform Malaysia into a digitally driven, high-income nation and a regional leader in digital economy. Standard Chartered highlights that in this digital blueprint is expected to accelerate Malaysia's ambition to become a technologically advanced economy, bolstering support for high-profile foreign investment projects, including Fortune 500 companies in the manufacturing and services sector. These will account to a combined potential investment value of nearly 20 billion euro. Malaysia already leads the way in high-tech net exports as a percentage of total trade. The development of smart cities is to uplift Malaysian cities' competitiveness and support commitment towards the global agenda, such as the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the new urban agenda. Throughout the country, there are several initiatives, most notably in the Kuala Lumpur area with the Greater KL Live Lab, in the north in Penang and the Kulim High Tech Park, and in the south, just above Singapore, in the Johor Iskandar region. The smart components that are prioritized are towards economy, living, environment, people, government, mobility, and smart digital infrastructure. Thank you for Malaysia, and now over to you, Guido, in Vietnam.
Yeah, thanks very much, Marco. Briefly on Vietnam, because I do realize that the webinar previously has been about Vietnam mainly. What I personally learned here is that Vietnam has actually a very good understanding of the different aspects and opportunities of smart cities, and of the urgent need as well to implement this way of urban development for its own good, for economic, social, and also a sustainable future. So for Vietnam, the key to success is collaboration and integration. And I think that what Peter is doing here in the Binh Duong region is a very necessary requirement for Vietnam to succeed. For example, a model such as the Helix model is not very commonly used in Vietnam. However, it seems that the authorities and the people here are really willing to learn and also to step into those things. But obviously, strategy and thinking of things, that is only one part. And as so often in the rest of the world, also in Vietnam, the bottleneck will be the execution. What we see is that Vietnam is already making big steps in the field of ICT solutions. That is driven by three main ICT companies, and these companies collaborate with international companies as well. So there's still much opportunity there for the Dutch, and I anxiously look forward to the future where we will see more about Vietnam. So that's my part about Vietnam, and over to, I believe, Indonesia, isn't it? Singapore, that's me again. I need to do Singapore again because Singapore is just out of this webinar. One of the strengths in Singapore is the logistics sectors and domestic banking. Singapore allows the country to have open trade, which we value with economic development, on a proactive strategy to attract foreign direct investment. Singapore is built precisely and close to being an ideal model of what good land use planning looks like in the 21st century. And the drive to become a digital innovation hub has driven Singapore to realize its vision at a rapid pace. So today, Singapore is well developed in smart mobility, healthcare and smart safety, efficient governance and overall livability. So according to several research, and that may not surprise us, is Singapore is amongst one of the smartest cities in the world. Over to Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you, Guido. My name is Nanya from the Dutch Business Network in Indonesia. Indonesia's population is growing quickly and is very young. The rapid urbanization in Indonesia makes it one of the fastest emerging consumer markets in the world, with a growing middle class. And it's expected that within 25 years from now, that more than 70% of the population will be urban. What does that mean for the opportunities for doing business in Indonesia? Now in 2021, it's the 16th largest economy in the world. For your reference, the Netherlands is the 17th largest economy in the world. In Indonesia, with 85 million people in the consuming class at the moment. But if you look forward in 2030, it is expected that it will be the 7th largest economy in the world, with approximately 150 million people in the consuming class. But it has its challenges. Indonesia's future is really depending on the quality of its urbanization. So urbanization has not fulfilled its potential yet to drive sustainable improvements in prosperity, inclusiveness, and also the livability in Indonesia. But it's perfectly positioned to supply the raw materials, for example, and the commodities needed by foreign industries. Indonesia is the world's largest producer of nickel and palm oil, the second world's largest producer of tin, and the world's 5th largest producer on coal. And Indonesia has favorable investment policies at the moment, including the new omnibus law and an enhanced ease of doing business. And specific opportunities for Dutch businesses are in food, agriculture, water management, waste, and circular economy. I leave it up to here. If you have any specific questions about doing business in Indonesia, you can always contact DBN. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Nanya. And last up is Philippines, Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Guido. I just see I can't start my video because it's been disabled by the host. But anyway, good evening already from downtown Manila. Similar to what Nanya just mentioned about Yeah, thank you. This should be working now. Thank you. The Philippines is, after Indonesia, the 2nd most populated country in Southeast Asia. And as its population is relatively young, this number is only growing. And we expect to see this growth continue to 115.4 million people by 2025. And now the majority of Filipinos is already urban, English speaking, sensitive to global consumer trends, relatively well educated and tech savvy. Even more so in large metropolitan areas like Metro Manila, which is also known as the National Capital Region, but also in Cebu, Davao, and many of the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Metro Manila alone accounts for 13 million people, but the sheer scale of its metropolitan area is enhanced by neighboring provinces that merged into the city, and where no clear distinction marks that you have just left an urban center and entered the province. These provinces together add another 15 million people regularly commuting to and from Metro Manila. Now, for Dutch companies, this provides the 2nd largest consumer market in Southeast Asia, but also its workforce is appealing for many of our Dutch companies. Fluent in English, its workforce has attracted many service industries, including business process outsourcing. But the current administration is also working towards tax and investment incentives to also attract foreign companies that focus on infrastructure, manufacturing, or export. Now, beyond Metro Manila, and they're here on the slide, there's also Cebu with even better English speakers than in any other part of the Philippines. Davao, which provides direct access to the fertile agricultural lands in Mindanao. And also cities beyond the big three, like Iloilo, which has been pushing the sustainability agenda, but also New Clark City that aims to attract some of the crowd in Metro Manila. Because that's also mainly a problem in Metro Manila, the urban density has its downsides. Due to limited public transportation options, Metro Manila traffic is notorious around the region and estimated to cost 70 million USD every day. Now, urbanization also amplifies the effect felt by climate change, which I think is also a great opportunity for Dutch companies to explore in the Philippines, including water management, waste management, and renewable energy, all still very much in their infancy here. So here too, we really invite Dutch companies to make a difference, and COVID-19 is only accelerating this. We see cycling know-how picking up locally. So while Filipino cities are not yet as smart as some of the peers in the region, I think the combination of both the scale and the absence of a language barrier makes the Philippines really an interesting market for Dutch businesses to explore. Guido, back to you.
Thanks, fantastic. Okay, that was a great roundup of how all EDs of all countries feel they relate to that concept of smart city. Before I continue on to the closing remarks, I've just discussed with Jeroen from NL in Business that he will get the stage for a minute, also to congratulate Hans a little bit further, who's the only one with a party hat on his head.
And a glass of wine.
And a glass of wine, fantastic.
Cheers, everyone.
Jeroen, are you able to come in? There we go.
Yes, Guido.
Brilliant.
And good morning, good afternoon to everyone also in the ASEAN region. Thanks very much, Guido, Hans, for this excellent presentation and this webinar, and also to the speakers before me from Peter and Signify. I think it's really interesting. And I think this shows actually what the value is of these international business chambers that you've formed together. And as many of you know, we from NL in Business have been supporting this whole network of international business chambers for much of these reasons. And we've also set up the NL Business Hub network. And luckily, all of these chambers are very much participating in that. And therefore, we're very happy also to see that this ASEAN Dutch Chamber Network in itself is even coming to further strength, because it is really so important also in the ASEAN region that all these chambers work together and can have things like this, a webinar like this about smart city and smart city development. I think it's so excellent to see all the opportunities in the different cities and how different companies from the Netherlands, but also outside, and organizations can all participate in that. So thanks very much. Many congratulations to you all by putting this all together. And we look forward in very much cooperating in the future and having more of these events.
All right, lovely. Thank you. Thanks. Very nice words, Jeroen. With that, I'm going to say thank you to everyone involved, specifically Peter and Jung. I know you put a lot of time into this, a lot of time into that presentation. It was very insightful, inspiring, and here and there even a little bit futuristic, really showing what the Dutch can do. I would also like to say thanks to all the chambers, the executive team members, specifically to the EDs of the chambers and all the work that we're putting into this. It's really appreciated here in Vietnam. We've set great steps, and we'll make good use of it, and we will continue to make good use of what we have to offer to each other. Now, an idea I've been having is to have some sort of an online roundtable of Dutch companies in the field of smart cities, thereby focusing on the ASEAN region. That is the region that is closest to our heart. If you feel the same, and if you, it's something that we can do, but we can also put our time in other stuff. So let us know. Our tribe chief, Hans van der Born, is always ready to speak about ADCN. Send him an email if you're interested in forming, for example, an online roundtable. And I'm sure that, for example, Jung and Peter could take up a leading role, guiding role into, okay, how can we set up a Dutch coalition of smart city companies. Again, this is not something that we have to do, but we have gotten around 58 participants or so. So it's always worth a try and see if we can set up a nice emailing list, a nice email thread, and maybe do a phone call every now and then, perhaps with Vietnam as a starting base, but it could also be Singapore, which is probably the smartest country of all 6, or any other country that feels like taking the lead. That's just my idea, and that is my the inspiration that I got from listening and participating, engaging in this webinar. So again, if you want to know more about ADCN, the rotating chairman function is now in the hands of Hans. His details are in here. That will be shared with you. If you want to know more about DBAV or about Smart City in Vietnam, then it could be good to contact me. Again, thanks very much, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon or evening ahead. All right, thanks. Bye.